It's Friday night and your phone buzzes with a group text. Someone's pushing for that new place downtown, the one with the thumping bass and the line wrapped around the corner. Everyone seems thrilled. But you're already picturing yourself there, straining to hear half-finished sentences, smiling at jokes you didn't quite catch, calculating how long before you can leave without anyone noticing. And quietly, almost instinctively, another thought drifts in. What if we went somewhere we could actually talk? But you don't suggest it. You already know how that might land. So let's talk about why that preference isn't a flaw. It's not shyness in disguise. And it's far more common than you've been led to believe. Before we get into the why, let me say something directly. If you've ever felt like you're somehow dampening the mood just by wanting something calmer, you're not broken. You're not difficult. You're responding to how your body actually works. Somewhere along the way, we picked up this unspoken rule that fun has to be loud, that good company requires tolerating chaos, that saying no makes you the problem. But that's a story, not a truth. Your nervous system doesn't care about group expectations. It just tells you what it needs, and honoring that is not a weakness. Let's get into what's actually happening. Your brain is constantly taking in information from your environment. Sounds, movement, faces, conversations layered over each other, lights shifting in your peripheral vision. In a calm cafe, that input flows at a pace you can manage. You can process what someone's saying, notice their tone, choose your words thoughtfully. But in a loud, high-energy space, everything competes for your attention at once. Music drowns out voices, crowds press in unpredictably, and your brain has to work harder just to filter the relevant from the irrelevant. That filtering takes energy, and the more effort you spend managing the environment, the less you have left for the actual connection you came for. It's really about the cost your brain pays to filter everything, and for some people, that cost runs higher than others. Neither response is wrong. They're just different. Picture yourself on a first date. You want to notice how this person speaks when they're nervous, catch the small pauses where something meaningful lives, maybe share something honest without shouting it over a bass drop. A cafe gives you that space. Silence feels comfortable because the room isn't demanding anything from you. Now imagine the same date in a packed venue, leaning in repeatedly, asking them to repeat themselves while someone's elbow jabs your side. The potential for real connection gets buried under sensory noise. The setting itself becomes the obstacle. This ties into how we budget social energy. Some people recharge through interaction and can move from group to group for hours without tiring. Others treat social energy more like a resource that depletes and needs replenishing. The detail most people miss is that loud environments don't just tire you out faster, they change what kind of connection is even possible. Every interaction takes more effort, more focus, more filtering, more forced engagement. A quieter setting lets you pace yourself, lets the conversation breathe. You leave feeling like you actually shared something instead of just enduring something. Think about an office happy hour, the kind that technically isn't mandatory but sure feels like it. You show up because you want to be seen as a team player, and within 20 minutes you're already fading. Everyone's overlapping, a television blares from the corner, and you're forcing smiles while counting down the clock. Now imagine the same people gathered at a low-key cafe. Suddenly, you can hear your coworker talk about their weekend without leaning in awkwardly. You can step away to grab a refill without it seeming like an escape. The social pressure drops, and what's left is just people connecting. Or consider a networking event, the kind with name tags and circulating crowds. In theory, it's an opportunity. In practice, it's a room full of rotating small talk, fluorescent lighting, and nowhere to settle. For some, that's energizing. For others, it burns through patience fast. A coffee meeting with one person at a time might accomplish the same goal with a fraction of the exhaustion. There's also something worth naming about predictability. Walking into a familiar cafe means fewer choices to make. You know the layout, the menu, the general rhythm of the place. That might seem trivial, but reducing small decisions preserves mental energy for what actually matters. What's interesting is how much decision fatigue shapes our social stamina without us even realizing it. Environments that minimize those micro-choices quietly support your capacity to be present. And then there's autonomy. In a calm setting, you can step outside for a moment, linger a bit longer at your table, or leave without constructing elaborate excuses. You have natural exits. You're not trapped by volume or crowd density. That kind of control matters because it lets you stay engaged on your terms, not just survive until it's socially acceptable to go home. Beyond all of this, there's something a cafe offers that rarely gets named directly. It's a space for emotional restoration. Not every outing needs to energize you. Sometimes you need the opposite, a gentle reset. A place where the atmosphere doesn't demand anything from you, where quiet feels permitted, where you can sit with your thoughts or with a friend and simply settle. That's not avoidance. That's maintenance. Now, let's address the labels. You've probably heard them. Boring. Antisocial. Too serious. No fun. These words stick because they suggest you're doing something wrong just by knowing yourself. But preferring quieter spaces doesn't mean you dislike people. Often it means the opposite, that you want to actually hear them, know them, connect without a wall of noise in the way. And choosing not to shout over strangers doesn't make you judgmental of those who enjoy it. It just makes you different. That's allowed. Of course, there's nuance here. A preference for quiet is just that, a preference. It becomes something else when it starts shrinking your life, when you stop showing up entirely, when flexibility disappears and avoidance takes over. The useful question isn't whether you ever skip a loud event. It's whether you're still saying yes when it matters, still nurturing relationships, still open to occasional discomfort for the people you care about. If your world is getting smaller and not by choice, that's worth noticing. Reaching out to a trusted person or seeking a bit of extra support can help you see what's really going on. This is general psychology, and preferences vary. What soothes one person might bore another, and that's completely fine. So the next time a group chat lights up with plans you'd rather not join, give yourself permission to want something else. You're allowed to suggest the cafe first. You don't need to wait for someone else to say it, and you don't need to apologize for it either. You're not ruining the night by knowing what kind of night works for you. And maybe the people who matter most will be glad you spoke up, because they've been wanting to hear what you actually think. Knowing yourself isn't boring. It's one of the quietest, most underrated forms of courage. And honestly, just letting that be enough feels like relief.